Y estamos aquí nuevamente con la segunda Feria Internacional del Libro INDAI, esta vez para presentar una entrevista que ha realizado Darío Aguilar, Peregrina de México, a dos autores de Estados Unidos, Og Maciel y Stacy Hanks, ambos de Carolina del Norte, donde nos van a contar sobre sus trabajos y también tienen podcast, así que vamos a enterarnos de todo eso que realizan en su país para la difusión de la literatura en este caso. Así que voy a pasar inmediatamente a la entrevista, que es traducida, ¿no? Hablada en inglés y traducida al castellano por nuestro querido Darío Aguilar Peregrina.
Hola amigos y amigas de la Feria Virtual INDAI 2022. Soy su anfitrión Darío Aguilar Peregrina. Hi everyone, I'm Darío Aguilar Peregrina, your host for this International Book Fair of INDAI. On this occasion, I'm going to have these two good friends that I met on Twitter, and also they are great writers. First of all, I want to present you Stacy and Hawks, host of the Writing Wall podcast. The Writing Wall podcast supports any writer of any nationality you want. Also, she wrote a really good book called Divide and Reach. That is pretty good. And I think she's writing another two books, but she's going to tell you more about that. Also, I want to present O.G. Maciel. O.G. Maciel is a great Brazilian American writer with his book, The Big Score. The Big Score, it's a great book. You should definitely check it. So OG is going to tell us more about his story and also other things about his writing. Amigos y amigas, muchísimas gracias de nuevo por esta oportunidad de tenerlos en esta feria. Como les digo, les presento a Stacy Ann Hawks, una gran amiga y es presentadora del podcast de The Writing Wall, así como escritora del libro Dividing Bridge. Y posiblemente también cree otros dos libros muy buenos. Por otro lado, tenemos a O.G. Maciel. O.G. Maciel es un escritor brasileño-americano que sin duda está causando nuevas sensaciones por su libro The Big Score. Sin duda tienen que checarlo en Amazon. Now, returning again on English, first of all, I want to ask Stacy or OG, wherever you would like to ask, to respond. First of all, what were your inspirations for writing? And second, what is the greatest thing about your writing career right now? Please, if you want to answer, Stacy or OG?
I think I've just always liked to read, and I've just always liked to hear stories and good stories. And, being able to tell a good story is important to me. So I think that was just sort of my inspiration for it. But also, this was a true story that I wrote about. It really happened in my community. So being able to take history and fiction and combine the two in such a way that it told a story, but also backed it up with actual facts was also kind of fun for me. But yeah, I mean, the most interesting thing so far about my career is either the podcast or the fact that the book won the North Carolina Historian Society Award for Excellence in 2021.
Yeah, I think for me, it probably started when I was a kid. There was this Brazilian author. So I was born in Brazil and I lived there until I was about 16. That's when I moved to the US. And there was this Brazilian author. His name is Monteiro Lobato. And he wrote mostly children's book. And I fell in love with the way how he described the scenery and the places where the characters were part of the story. And I always felt like I wish I could write like that. So that was early on, but it wasn't until I guess I read John Steinbeck, and I was 40 already by the time I read Steinbeck. And I was like, wow, same exact thing, right? Like, I really love how he portrayed his characters and how he had a way with his words to describe how the protagonists or how the characters of the books, how they felt, how they reacted to things. The Grapes of Wrath was the one that really I started with. So I think that was probably the motivation. I wanted to write like that. I wanted to be able to elicit some emotion on people. I wanted to make people feel the way that I felt. Like, so in my head, I could tell all these stories, and all these stories, they have a very important impact on my life, and I wanted to be able to transcribe that feeling into words so that other people can do it. I'm still learning, I'm still trying to do that, but I think that's ultimate. That's what I really want to do. I want to make people feel something when they read one of my stories, one of my books.
Thank you, OG. Thank you, Stacy. Amigos y amigas, ahorita Stacy y OG nos acaban de mencionar sus inspiraciones para escribir. En el caso de Stacy, ella principalmente se basa mucho en la ficción, en la historia más bien, en la historia principalmente y cómo basarse en hechos actuales y crear una historia nueva, contemporánea y a su vez fresca. Sin duda ella es una gran escritora en cuanto a esto de la historia, amigos, porque ya ganó incluso un premio en Carolina del Norte y se lo mereció sin duda. El premio a la excelencia de Carolina del Norte en literatura se lo merece bastante Stacy. Por otro lado tenemos a OG. OG sin duda su inspiración viene desde niño. Desde niño le vino la inspiración gracias a los libros que leía de Brasil, en su infancia, que creció allá en Brasil y que vino a Estados Unidos a los 16 años. Entonces, sin duda fue algo importantísimo en este caso. Y luego a los 40 tuvo otro gran libro que empezó a leer varios libros y que le ayudaron muchísimo para mejorar. Y lo que dice OG, él quiere hacer que el espectador, que el lector tenga un gran sentimiento al leer estos libros, que se meta en la historia y que sea él mismo. Lo mismo Stacy. Yo considero que también Stacy con Dividing Reach logró eso y pues sin duda Stacy está haciendo un gran trabajo en cuanto a la escritura esta de la historia de Carolina del Norte. Again, returning on English, the second question I want to ask you, Stacy and OG, is the process of creating your books. How many years it took to write the story, or when you decided to publish this great story? Because I have already read those two and I think they are really great. I think they are better than mine because honestly you write really great. So please tell the audience what is your opinion on this topic.
In the case of Dividing Ridge, it took 2 to 3 years to write, edit, format, get the book the way that I wanted it. And then it took me 10 years to get up the courage to publish it. And, you know, that was before KDP was around. It was before we could be indie publishers and publish ourselves. So most of the time, everybody wanted, you know, they wanted money for you to publish your book. And I thought, you know, I'll just wait it out and see how it goes, because I kind of was reprehensive about publishing the book a little bit. But, you know, I mean, because it's your baby, you don't want to let it go. You want it to be just right when you get it out there into the world and let everybody read it. So yeah, so that took some time. and then after I got it out, I was kind of relieved, and I thought, wow, that's crazy. You know, I did all this work, and it's actually, you know, now I get to share it with other people, which was great. But now in the case of Devil's Ridge took 2 years as well, just to do the researching about the moonshining, bootlegging, the race cars, NASCAR connection, the crimes and stuff that were created by, you know, that were actually done by this individual that we loosely based the story on. And then we pulled characters from Dividing Ridge and put them in Devil's Ridge. So, I mean, it was still the same process, but it was a little more fiction than it was truth. And that kind of made the process interesting and definitely different and fun. But yeah, so I mean, about a couple of years for any kind of historical fiction novel, I think is about the norm.
That's quite impressive. I have to say, so my books are mostly fiction, so I didn't have to go through a lengthy process of doing research like you did, Stacy. So kudos to you. 2 years or plus. Wow, that's a long investment right there. For me, I have to say that while I guess the books that you both know me from, these are the 2 fiction books that I wrote. It all started with a nonfiction book that I wrote, and it was mostly because I, like you, Stacy, it took me a while to gather the courage to write something. So, you know, this is my baby, like I said, and I wanted to make sure that I could write it well. And that first book started out as I had it in my mind that it was going to be sort of like a manual. So it was very technical. It's about my career and what I do, but it was only, and it was really hard going for me to capture the essence of what I wanted to write. First time doing that. And it wasn't until I had a really nice chat with a friend of mine, and he basically said, Augie, since we've known each other for so long, I'm going to give you a word of advice. Even though you haven't asked for my advice, I'm going to give you a word of advice. And he said that the thing that he liked the most about me, and this is someone that I never met, so this is an online friend, I've known him for over 10 years. And he said, the thing that I like the most about you is that when I talk to you, I love your stories. And what you're doing now is you're not telling a story. You're being too formal, you're being too dry, and you're trying to sort of, you know, shoehorn a new style into your book. And that's not you. Write it the way that you speak. Write it the way that you talk to me. So that was, I think, the thing that really unlocked me. That when I started writing the way that I think, the way that I talk to people, that really unlocked things. So now coming out to the latest book, the last book that I published, The Big Score, that one I started it. It was during the National Novel Writing Month, so NaNoWriMo, and I wrote for 19 days nonstop. Right, tried to crank out as many words as I could, and then I got to a chapter that was really, really hard for me to write, and I couldn't get past it. And I wanted to write it. Once again, going back to the, making people feel emotions, I wanted to write. I was writing about the bad guy in the story, and I wanted to make people feel a certain way about him. Right? Yeah, he was not the nice guy, but I want people to feel something for him. So that took me a while, but I would say that it did not take me 2 years. It took me maybe 4 months to write it up, and then I worked with an editor whom she performed miracles. She turned my prose into something that was coherent, and it looks really nice. And I can't believe that I wrote when I read it. But I guess the last thing I'll say about this is that I feel like maybe I cheated a little bit, because my stories are based on personal things, either stories that happened to myself or happened to a friend or happened to a relative. So what I did was capture all of that and turn it into prose and fictionalized it a little bit, right? But nothing like what you did, Stacy. So really kudos. I don't know that I could do what you've done. So you definitely deserve that award.
Thank you so much, Augie. Yeah, and I also just want to quickly mention, when you do historical fiction work, there's a lot of times that you have to pull from, primary sources like newspapers, things like that. So we also had to go around and get permission from the AP and other sources to put in Dividing Ridge and put in this book. So Devil's Ridge was a little different. I didn't have to do that. It was, like I said, it was more fiction than actual fact. But still, I mean, it's definitely a fun process. And yeah, I've enjoyed both of your books, Augie. They're really great. And, so happy you could be here tonight to talk to everyone about that.
Amigos y amigas, sin duda, Oji y Stacy nos acaban de platicar su gran proceso en cuanto a la creación de sus libros. Primero que nada, quiero empezar con Stacy. Stacy, sin duda, ella se basa mucho en la investigación. Ella revisa demasiado y se tomó hasta 2 años para crear esta historia de Dividing Ridge. Lo mismo con Devil's Ridge, que fue la secuela. Y por otro lado, tenemos a Oji. Oji realmente nos comenta, o sea, no fue tanto tiempo, pero fue más la parte de la edición. Y para esto su editora le ayudó bastante, después de crear esta historia, después de 4 meses, en crear una gran historia, y que hasta él mismo dijo, wow, o sea, esto es mi libro y esto me encantó. Entonces, por esa razón lo mismo Stacy siente, porque Stacy también conectó con eso. Aunque la historia, los datos históricos y la ficción realmente no podrían ser muy compatibles, porque pues uno es historia y otro es ficción, sin duda eso les ayudó a estos 2 grandes escritores para que sus historias tuvieran esta pasión, este corazón, porque como dijo OG al inicio, y lo estoy mencionando mucho, lo que tú necesitas ponerle a tu historia es una pasión, el corazón, para crear una gran historia. Entonces, eso, amigos, sin duda fue impresionante de estos grandes escritores. Again, in English, the third question, Stacy and Oji, is please tell us if in the future your novels are adapted into a Netflix series or a movie series, I don't know. Is there any actor you have in mind, or any places you would like to showcase in your work? Please tell us.
So yeah, I've given some thought to this over the years. I kind of would like to have Tommy Lee Jones play my sheriff and play my main character, just because he's got that Southern Texas kind of draw. And I would definitely love to see it filmed in my community where the actual crime happened. So that way people can actually see the real Smithy store. They can see the courthouse. They can see all these great stores that we had along Main Street, because many of them are still there. And they can also take in the Blue Ridge Mountains, so that doesn't hurt. But yeah, I mean, I've actually reached out to a few people, and they're actually interested in making this a film. So we're hopeful, and we're crossing our fingers that 2023 might be the year.
Wow, that's amazing, Stacy. Wow. Okay, I won't say congrats yet. I'll wait until something solidifies there. Darío, I don't know, man. I haven't really thought about it, but the first thing that pops into my head right now is that I wouldn't necessarily choose any famous actors to portray any of the characters. I'd rather see completely new, unknown actors and actresses. I think a diversified team, because I think that's really, the stories, it's supposed to be about the people and the stories, their feelings and how they interact with each other. So maybe not having a known star could help, right? So that the focus is not so much as like, hey, it's Tom Hanks, playing one of the characters. It'll be more like new people, and maybe then the focus would be more on the story itself.
Thank you, Oji. Thank you, Stacy. Sin duda, amigos, bueno, ahorita les acabo de preguntar a estos dos escritores, en caso de alguna adaptación de sus libros a una película o una serie de Netflix, Amazon o lo que ustedes quieran, Stacy nos da un gran panorama diciéndonos que el sheriff de la historia de Dividing Reach le encantaría que fuera Tommy Lee Jones por ese acento sureño que tiene, y sin duda le encantaría poner más de las Blue Mountains en esta historia. De hecho, nos comenta que ojalá en 2023, ojalá que se pueda hacer una adaptación de este gran libro, porque la verdad está muy bueno, amigos, se los recomiendo muchísimo. Está en inglés, pero sin duda, chéquenlo, es muy bueno el libro. Por otra parte, Oji me dice, la verdad, no tengo un actor definido, pero me encantaría darle la oportunidad a desconocidos, actores nuevos, gente nueva en esto, porque sin duda sería una historia de diferentes voces, porque de eso se trata su libro, diferentes voces. Entonces, sin duda, él quisiera ver esas voces representadas, una diversidad verdadera en cuanto a más cosas interesantes. Ojalá, amigos y amigas, esto les funcione a ellos dos, porque son grandes escritores, de nuevo vuelvo a mencionar. And guys, the last question for this interview is any advice you have to anyone that is writing? And also, please tell us your social media and everywhere we can find you, and other plans you have in the future.
So you can find me on Twitter and Instagram using the handle at The Writing Wall for Twitter and at Writings on the Wall 85 for Instagram. You can also find us at Dividing Ridge Books on Instagram. You can find us on Facebook. Our Linktree URL is there. You can click on that and get all our platforms to find our books, our podcast platforms where everybody can tune in and listen. As for the future, yes, I'm working on my third book, the Third Ridge series right now. So it will be out next year, and we're in the editing phase of all that, the final editing phase. And hopefully, like I said, it'll be out probably about the middle of next year. Then I've got another book that I'm looking at, and I think Darío knows that one of the characters are kind of inspired a little bit by him. So we're excited about about putting that element into the book as well. And then, so I mean, just a lot happening in the next year. We've got a great podcast lineup for season 6. Season 6 airs February 11th, 2023 at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and it goes all the way to April. And just keep an eye out on our pages to see when and if season 7 happens.
Yeah, I'm on Twitter and Instagram using the handle Augie Maciel, OGMACIEL. I'm also working on a couple of other books right now. It's been a little bit hard to find the time to write, but I got 2, I think, pretty concrete plans for books. I'm not sure when exactly I'm going to be publishing them. And as far as advice, for an aspiring writer or someone who just started, I would just say, try not to spend too much time editing your own work. So just write, just dump everything that's on your head, just write it down, because editing happens later on, right? So don't stop writing, looking for that specific word that you want to use, or even if you're doing some nonfiction work, well, maybe that's not a good advice because I haven't done it. Stacy will probably be a better person to do that. So fiction, don't get hung up on words or terms or anything like that. Even if you're looking for the name of a street or the name of a place, or what's the capital of, I don't know, Mongolia. Don't get hung up on that. Just keep on writing, because you'll come back. You're going to edit it again, and if you stop too much, it sort of stops the flow. And then, yeah, that's the advice that I have for y'all.
Yeah, I just want to also add, if you have any questions, or, you're a first-time writer, you're looking to publish, reach out to the writing community and let people, know what you're thinking and get some feedback. And you can find great beta readers and all kinds of editors and support and podcasters and all that out there, and you can, of course, anytime just find and meet up with individuals online to even critique work.
Thank you, Stacy. Thank you, OG, again. Amigos y amigas, ahorita para concluir esta gran plática, Stacy y OG nos dieron grandes mensajes para ustedes que están empezando a escribir. Anímense a escribir su historia. A veces no la hagan tan complicada como ustedes quieran hacerla, en caso de que no vean la necesidad. Busquen de nuevo, ahora sí que en su corazón, y creen la mejor historia posible. Ya sea de historia, ya sea de ficción, ya sea de cualquier género, les va a ayudar muchísimo. Y sobre todo, pues Stacy nos da esta noticia de que el próximo año vienen más libros. Uno está inspirado en su servidor, pero ella ya les dará más detalles. OG, por otra parte, también está planeando, creo que está planeando más cosas. OG está haciendo un gran trabajo con The Big Score. Insisto, en Amazon pueden encontrar The Big Score en inglés. También Dividing Rich, pueden encontrar todos los libros de Stacy en Amazon. Igualmente, por favor, les solicito que sigan a OG y a esta Stacy en sus redes sociales, en Twitter e Instagram. A OG lo pueden encontrar en Twitter como OG Maisel, así lo pueden encontrar, y Stacy la pueden encontrar como The Finding Rich Books, o también The Writing World Podcast, que también ya viene una nueva temporada de este gran podcast de escritores. Also, también OG nos menciona que también está en portugués todo su trabajo. Todo o trabajo do OG está en português. Eu não sou muito bom falando portugués, pero al final de cuentas, yo también amo mucho Brasil, entonces, pues, por favor, chéquenlo. Amigos y amigas, en serio, muchísimas gracias por todo, y sigan en esta gran feria virtual del libro INDAI. Nos veremos la próxima ocasión. Por favor, anímense a participar. Un abrazo.
Esta fue la entrevista que realizó Darío, Aguilar, Peregrina, estos dos grandes escritores estadounidenses. OG y Stacy, muchísimas gracias por haber participado. Muchas gracias, Darío. Pero te veo enseguida, dentro de unos minutitos, para cerrar esta feria con el último bloque, con un conversatorio sobre jóvenes escritores. Nos vemos enseguida. Gracias.